alumni, faculty, applicants, and those who are in the programs, sort of to exchange information, what you've done, what you're doing, what you're planning on doing, and so on. Then come back to the organization as a whole, and let's see where we are in terms of unanswered questions or issues you'd like to address. To begin with, I think it would just be a little bit useful to go around and at least give us your name and where you're from and your position in all this, just to see who's here. I'll just hand the microphone on and you can begin.
Thanks, Ken.
My name's Colin Sanders. I live in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, and I've been chipping away at this dissertation for a little while, and hopefully not too much longer, but it's getting there. And working with Sheila McNamee on this, and I was in the conference in Merida in the Yucatan last year, and I was really enchanted by that. And I'm equally enchanted waking up and seeing the beautiful mountains here this morning, and also the sun. Yesterday was very cold for me. So so I'm doing a dissertation with Taos Tilburg, and I live in Vancouver, Canada. Okay.
I'm Karen Gossin. I live in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and I'm alumni. I defended my dissertation in November of 2011. Hi, I'm Mary Gergen. I'm an advisor and part of the Taos Institute.
I'm Larry Espy, and I defended my dissertation in February 2010. Mary was my advisor. I'm from Fort St. John, BC, Canada.
Hello, my name is Gro Emerson. I'm from Denmark. I'm just applying this spring.
Hi, my name is Bud. I'm from Norway. I finished the same date as Karen did in November 2011.
Could I interrupt for just a second and tell you all that we're live streaming right now? So is everyone okay with that?
Yep.
You can cover your face.
Yeah. Just put it back over your head. Sorry. Okay, sorry.
So my name is Annette. I am from Germany. I recently moved from Munich to Berlin. I am struggling. I'm in the PhD program, and I'm still struggling to define my topic, but I think that will be, for me personally, the most difficult part. When I've done that, I'm a real doer. I know exactly what to do, I hope. We'll see.
Hi, I'm Camila. I come from Colombia. I'm in my second year of the PhD program. My dissertation is about early childhood in a complex context in Colombia, and how to build processes of, like how to promote processes of peace building within families and community participation. And my advisor is Ken Gergen.
I'm McKenna Lang, and I'm in my PhD program, just finishing up my data collection. And I'm working on the idea of the ombudsman or ombudsperson as it's emerging around the world. And John Winslade is my advisor. I'm from Bainbridge Island, Washington.
Hi, I'm Allison Harkin. I'm from Laramie, Wyoming. I'm a first-year student in the PhD program, and Mary Gergen is my advisor.
Hi, I'm Kevin Barge. I'm an advisor. I'm also a professor of communications at Texas A&M University.
Yeah, that was my advisor. I'm doing the second year, and my subject is relation approach to strategic change in organizations. And I'm from Denmark.
Hello, I'm Daniel Cho from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I'm Canadian. I've just begun the doctoral program, and I'm working with Ken Gergen.
Hi, my name is Greg Spiro. I live in Singapore. I'm an organization development consultant and a mediator. I'm a newbie on the program, so if you come back in 4 years, I'll let you know what my topic is.
Hi, I'm Jenny Belden Charles. I'm from St. Paul, Minnesota, and I defended my dissertation in June of 2011. And Mary Gergen was my advisor.
My name is Gilbert Oliva.
Advisor and Reader.
My name is Roberto Aristigue. I presented my thesis last June. My advisor was
Hi, my name is Ivan Publey. I live in the state that borders Canada, so I'm from Idaho. I work for the Forest Service, and I'm applying to the PhD program.
Hi, my name is Sabine. I live in northern Colorado, just north of Denver. And I have applied for the PhD program, and now I'm curious.
Hello, my name is Eliane. I'm Brazilian but live in the Netherlands, teaching at Dutch University an international program, and I'm an advisor at the PAS PhD program.
Hi, I'm Jody Jacobson. I'm here from Madison, Wisconsin. I'm a graduate of the program. I graduated on the same day that Ginny did. John Weissman was my advisor. And my dissertation was on an organizational dynamic called accidental adversaries, which is sort of silos. I'm a business strategy consultant.
My name is Jan DeFair. I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, so one more Canadian here. I graduated from the program in November 2008. And Harleen Anderson was my advisor. The topic of my dissertation related to reciprocity and mutual influence in collaborative practice. And so many people contributed to that project, and I'm still curious. As an alumni, I'm still curious about my topic, and still learning. It's great to be here.
Hello, I'm Marie Housegates. I'm from Victoria, Canada. I'm Canadian. I'm an advisor.
Hello, my name is Stephanie McEwen, and another Canadian. I'm from Vancouver Island, and my advisor is Sally St. George.
Hello, I'm Ellen Crump, yet another Canadian. I'm from Dundas, Ontario, Canada. I just started at the beginning of March this year, and Marie is my advisor.
Hi, my name is Val Breeman. I won't break the chain. I'm also Canadian from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And I'm very honored to have Harleen Anderson as my advisor. The topic of my dissertation is school bullying in the Aboriginal context.
Hi, I'm Ann Morrison. I teach a course, Relational Learning and Education, and I'm from Ohio. Sorry to break the Canadian boundary.
I'm Doug Gilbert from Denver, Colorado, so I broke it again. So I'm in the phase of moving into data collection. The title that I've chosen, at least this iteration, is Collaboration, the Art and Craft of Management, How Social Construction Redefines the Teaching and Practice of Management. Ann Bergen is my advisor.
I'm Kristen Bodiford from Chicago, Illinois, and Sheila was my advisor. I defended in October, and I worked with a group of youth who were labeled dangerous, delinquent, dangerous, and talked about the impact of stories and language that we use on construction of identities and agency. And I'm also Marge Schiller today online. I'm connecting with Marge Schiller and wanted to introduce you to Marge. She is an advisor and now a grandmother, which is why she's not able to be here today. She's taking care of her grandchildren. But she wanted to put out an idea to the group. The Appreciative Inquiry practitioner is interested in doing an issue that tracks long-term appreciative inquiry interventions. And she's putting this out to see if someone might be in search of a topic and find the idea interesting. So you'll find Marge Schiller online in the Taos Institute Ning site, and invite you to connect with her if you have any interest.
My name is Ron Reedy from Boston, Massachusetts. I am a first-year student, and I'm studying with Jackie Stavros. My topic area is intercultural communication, building models within business organizations, relational models.
My name is Greg Stevens. I teach at Kansas State University in Salina. Mary Durgan's my advisor, and I'm looking at the stories and leaders within Kansas farm organizations.
I'm Steve Lawler. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm working with Ken, and I'm also working on leadership.
I'm Dora Fried. I'm from Argentina. I am an advisor and also a reader. And I could say two more things. One is that it's so important to have an international PhD program where people that have careers and experiences could be working and support this program profoundly.
Hi, I'm Nora Renteria from Mexico City. I work at the University of Mexico, and I'm here because I'm very curious and interested in maybe studying the PhD here. Thank you. My name is Monica Sedma. I'm from Mexico City, and I'm here because I have a class in the Universidad de Londres in Mexico City that is called New Paradigms in Psychology, and the topic of my class is to read the dissertations that has been raised from this program.
Hi, I'm Carly Anderson. I'm one of the advisors and also one of the founders of the Towles Institute.
I'm Marvin Chow from Princeton, New Jersey. I finished up in the spring of 2008.
My name is Maurits Quay. I live in the Netherlands, near Amsterdam. I'm a faculty member of the Towles Tilburg program, so I'm an advisor.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Walters, another Canadian, first-year student.
My name is Xujue Wu from Taipei, Taiwan. I'm here because I'm thinking in the future I could make some recommendation of my students who speak Chinese to attend this PhD program. So not for myself, but for the students in the future.
I am Sally St. George, and I'm one of the Towles Institute board members and an advisor in the Towles Tilburg program.
Hi, I am Jakob Nølle. I think today I want to be Canadian maybe, but I'm from Copenhagen, Denmark. My dissertation is on talent development in the pharmaceutical industry, and Ken is my advisor.
Hi, I'm Diane Jacobson. I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota. I have a Canadian connection, and in fact, I was married to a wonderful Canadian, and I travel there every year to Snowshoe. I'm a first-year PhD student, and Arlene Katz is my advisor.
Hello, I'm Kathy Isaacson, and I'm also a first-year PhD student. Sheila's my advisor, and I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico. So welcome to the land of enchantment.
My name is Jane Taylor, and I started in March. My topic is how perinatal care is being constructed in the U.S. and Ghana and Louisiana, as if it were another country. And Carly Anderson is my advisor.
I'm Jacob Stoll. I'm from Denmark, and I work as a director of a systemic social constructionist management consultancy. And I did my dissertation originally on how does an organization look from the inside when everybody kind of accept the premise of social constructionism and systemic practice. So what does that do to strategy work, innovation, change, leadership? So that was my work.
I'm Kelly Swager. I'm from North Carolina, and I'm working with Sheila, and my area of interest is the deconstruction of nurses' relationships with their older patients.
I'm Dorothy Chu from Hong Kong. I'm an AI practitioner and consulting partner of Corporation of Positive Change. I'm very interested in the PhD program, and hopefully I'll be joining the program.
I'm Diana Whitney, and I'm one of the founders of the Towles Institute, and I'm one of the advisors. I'm Sheila McNamee. I'm a founder of the Towles Institute and advisor.
Hello, my name is Angela Marquestra. I come from Colombia. I'm part of an advisory program, and I'm so glad to be here in this kind of peregrination to celebrate.
I'm John Reisman, and as Ken told, the linking pin between this program and Tilburg University.
We have a couple of newcomers, several. All right.
We didn't hide well enough, did we? I'm Pam Smith. I'm from Brunswick, Maine. I'm a first-year PhD student. My dissertation is autoethnography and deconstructing ideas of conclusion and closure. And Ken Gergen is my advisor.
I'm Steve Roland Woodbean from Kansas City, Missouri. I'm a PhD student. Sadi Karaba, my fearless leader, my advisor. And my research topic is creating a new construction for including students who may not be able to afford to study abroad in the study abroad opportunities available, using returning students who have already studied abroad through that process in their cultural transitions.
Well.
My name is Dan Wolf. I'm from Calgary, Canada.
Really from Iowa.
Yeah, we're all from someplace else. I'm a Taos board member and advisor.
I'm Bob Cotter. I'm from Arizona, and I'm a board member.
I'm Salina Baba, currently in New York City, and I'm one of the advisors in the Taos Tilburg program.
Sorry, I'm also Giovanna. How do you say Giovanna's last name? Mary? Giovanna, I hope I got that right. And she is living in the United Arab Emirates, and Professor Mary Gergen is her advisor. And she's working on dialogues in classrooms and collaborative learning with industries through projects.
Wonderful. Oh, wonderfully rich collection of people here, isn't it? Fantastic. It makes it so worthwhile to be part of this program, just to be with people like yourselves. A little bit of the history, I think in some way it grows out of a friendship between John Reisman and me. We'd known each other for a number of years. We'd both been involved with the constructionist ideas. We're trying to think of ways to stay connected and have some good times together and be productive. John was also part of the Taos Institute, and it was basically John who came up with the idea that perhaps Taos could be a base from which students could graduate from Tilburg University. Now, what that has meant is essentially that the students would come in through the Taos Institute. We would handle all the administration. We would handle a lot of the teaching and advising, all the technology. We would help to prepare the student, who would then go through the processing at Tilburg, which is another process which would eventually lead to their candidacy as a PhD student in Tilburg University and graduate from that university. So it's in some sense a partnership, although it's not an official partnership between Taos and Tilburg University. It is essentially a partnership that is based on personal relationships. So we don't have an official status with Tilburg. You won't look it up. You won't look up on Tilburg University and find Taos Institute. It's all coming through the lower echelons, which also means we could have the same arrangement in other universities in the Netherlands and in Belgium if we wished, but we haven't moved that direction except for two exceptions yet. Now, as we had sort of thought through this program, we want it to be one for professionals. I mean, there are enough programs around for people who've graduated from universities or going on in academics, but what about professionals who are out there in the world doing things? We really like that. We want to sort of provide something for them because they're like moving the world. They're making things happen. And secondly, those dissertations would have to be related in some way to social constructionist ideas. Now, I have to say just a little bit about that. It's not that a dissertation has to sort of have social construction written in the title and be, review that literature and so on and so on and so on, and be a derivation somehow from those ideas. We're not interested in that. What we are interested in are dissertations that have some connection, are in some kind of dialogue with, or reverberate with, or in the same family with constructionist ideas. So that may mean a lot of different things. It could mean dissertations on collaboration, on peace building, on community building, on narrative therapy, on appreciative inquiry, and so on and so on. So we're vitally interested primarily in practices which have some reverberation with the ideas that we tend to support. And in some ways to enrich the implications of constructionist ideas, where they would take us, how if you embedded those ideas in practice, would those practices look? So the ideas just don't hang there as sort of abstract, off in a book somewhere. They're living ideas within practices, and the practices inform the way in which we understand those ideas. So there are dissertations that have taken, it's been about 12 years ago since we began this program. One or two dissertations, we weren't interested in a gigantic program, not at all. That led to about 4, then there were 8 students. We have not advertised this program anywhere. We didn't want a lot of people. We had only a small group of people we thought were relevant faculty. It's out of hand. It's word of mouth and the success of a lot of people who are here, who've loved it, who've really felt that they've grown, they've been edified, they've been able to do something with the work, they've increased their status at jobs, they've got new positions and so on. And so now we've got this year 50 applicants to this program. I don't know what we're going to do with those. We can't really accept them all. There are now we're bordering on 60 graduates from that program, and they come from around the world. I haven't counted the number of countries, but I think there are
17 countries. 17 countries, yeah. Most of those dissertations, and again, they're on all sorts of topics. They're not an organization in therapy or primary, but they come out of religious institutions, people who are doing community work, peace building, and so on. I mean, just a lot of different things. There are even theoretical dissertations, as Roberto Aristegui, just a totally theoretical dissertation. They are primarily in English. Most of those dissertations have been in English. However, that hasn't been essential. And last year, the year before last, we graduated the first dissertations in Spanish. And then they may be the first dissertations in Spanish, certainly at Tilburg, and maybe in the Netherlands. One can also do them in German and French with some ease, because that's been done at Tilburg before. Conceivably, that net could be opened up. I mean, conceivably. We haven't tested the limits, but where would those limits be? It would be hard to draw a line and say, well, those languages can't work. But then again, we have got to find the teachers for those. All of the people who teach in this program, the advisors, are associates or on the board of the Taos Institute. There are 1 or 2 exceptions, but generally by the time the dissertation is finished, they will also be associates, because we like to keep them in the family. Most of that work is done at a distance. By the way, you should know that the program functions on the basis of a European model, which presumes that you've got a master's degree already in hand, and that master's degree has got to be approved by a Dutch commission. So that's got to be there, so that the dissertation is the PhD program. That is, it's after the coursework. So the dissertation is like writing a book of some kind. And I take that kind of writing a book a little bit seriously. I mean, a little bit it's a metaphor. It's got to be writing. It can't be visual yet. But what we like to think of is this program is not just about the development of the individual PhD candidates. This is very important, what I'm saying. We want that work to get out in the world. We want it to be shared. We want you to write
not for some academic reader whom you imagine in your mind, not for Heidegger, for example. Write to people who can use the work. Write for your colleagues. Write for the people who can take that up and take it into their professions and be illuminated by it. One of the major problems we have is that people try to write in academies, and often you can't, I mean, you know, that's a terrible language. We're not interested in you trying to replicate that language. So write in ways that people can use it. We will post those dissertations on the web at Taos. People download them all over the world. Some of you will indeed, and there are about 5 cases of this now, where they've published their work as a book. Sometimes these are publications with other publishers. Sometimes we publish them at Taos. But we're interested in that work and not being just you, but in getting it out into the world so it becomes something that can be used otherwise. A little bit more on that. It's a constructionist program. We automatically presume that whatever we're writing is constructed as well, and that the forms of dissertations are constructed and the form of writing. Now, on the one hand, it's condemning because that's sort of like infinite freedom. It's difficult to proceed in a totally blank world of where every choice is possible. On the other hand, it's tremendously liberating because it means that there's not one form of a dissertation, not one form of research, not one form of methodology, if there is indeed a method. It gives a lot of latitude so that the problem should dictate the way in which you want to do the research or inquiry, and the audience should dictate the way in which you speak it or write it. All right? So you're not testing abstract hypotheses to find out if they're true or false. You're trying to give somebody some ideas and perhaps some illuminating exemplars, perhaps a new practice, something, or some wisdom that will help them in whatever they're doing. They're trying to develop a leadership program. What would your research, for example, say to them? Watch this, look out for that. This is what happened to me, and so on. So it's saying the form is optional in some way. You may find it comfortable to go back to a background literature review, methodology, research results, and so on. I mean, you can do that, but it's optional. One student now is working on a set of essays, perhaps, around a topic. That is, essays without a necessary conclusion. So it doesn't go from A to Z. I mean, there are all sorts of ways of doing this. So you've got some freedom to let the form follow what you're doing and allow you the maximum potency of expression to give it, put it into the world so people can take it and do something with it. That means use writing that does it, and you can be imaginative here. I had one student, for example, who was doing interviews, but she didn't feel that the interviews really captured the dilemmas these people were in. It just didn't do it. So beside each interview that she summarized, she also wrote a little fairy story about that person. You know, this was a foreign princess who came to this city, that is the organization, and she had had great acclaim at home, but now she found herself in the lower reaches of the organization or the city, and nobody cared for her, and so on and so on. So trying to demonstrate the drama of this person's life and where she was coming from. Now, just as long as you signal where you are and what you're doing, various forms of writing are possible. We have several dissertations in which people have included poetry. We like people to include visuals somewhere along the line. We've had one dissertation which was largely, although it's still a little bit in flux, in cartoons. I mean, that's edgy. I should say that the administration of this program, at least officially, is pretty much myself and John and Sheila. We kind of make a lot of the administrative decisions. But a lot of, certainly the board of the Taos Institute and the faculty helped to make that all that run and to work as smoothly as it can. Now, there are going to be a lot of open spaces here for questions, but I've got to put John Reisman on, who has really just has been the pivotal position of this whole thing. I mean, he's carried all of this on his back. And if he's a little bent over, understand that.
Thanks. Is that okay?
This is what you want.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ken. Let me first say how impressed and intimidated actually I am looking around here and see this triple department of social research, bigger than any department I have been in or connected with. And that seems to be the product of a decade or even more simply friendly cooperation. What Ken told about the content of the dissertations, I fully agree with. It doesn't matter in what narrative style you write. The only thing that is necessary is some kind of reflection. And reflection means that you use some mirrors of some kind. And mirrors can be anything. I see you not, Jody. You actually used literally the word rear view mirrors or something like that, which means that your description of the story was reflected on by incorporating into the text edited squares that you defined as rear window or rear reflection mirrors of some kind, which means that you are not just the generative story by itself, but that you think about it and share your thoughts with readers. And indeed, language can be very different. The narrative style can be extremely different, as we have noticed over the years. And it's up to you to shape it with your supervisor to a point that we can say it's beautiful. It carries message, it convinces, it persuades readers, those that are intended. I can also say that this enterprise has been the greatest academic gift in my life. Reading all these dissertations as primary supervisor or as finally linking pin supervisors to the university has exposed me to themes and topics that for sure I would never have been exposed to without this program. It has become the greatest educational enterprise in my life. I am the real student in this enterprise. So thanks to everybody, the supervisors, the students, and the future students. Now, a few words about how things go. I'm sure that for most of you, it's a bit strange because you have to be acquainted with the logic of a local culture. If there is anything, a good illustration of how the real and the good is created in communities of practice, this program illustrates it by itself. Being educated in Belgium and the Netherlands, and having worked before in the United States, I know how different the systems are. How implicit understanding cannot be carried or simply translated from one into the other. I have many times received questions that make no sense in the system that we work in. That doesn't mean that the questions are meaningless. They only carry meaning within the system that you're used to. And the very essence of the truth and the real and the good in your system is not necessarily real and good in the other system, or does not even exist sometimes. Like questions on accreditation. Many times I have received that question. Well, I can tell you, universities in the Netherlands are accredited by definition. Without accreditation, you cannot carry the name university, because we are all state universities. That's also the reason why you do not register with high payment or anything. Besides your supervision contribution to Taos, there is no extra money involved to the university, which is hard to understand, I suppose, in an American system. And to understand how things work, I need to say a few words. Those who have been participating already may have not understood what they were actually in. There are two systems of dissertation writing in the Netherlands. One is the one that you're probably quite familiar with. You finish your master, you get a research fund or anything, and you participate in a program that is imposed on you by your supervisor. Usually you do that when you're young and inexperienced. That's a very legitimate way of writing a dissertation. I have done it that way myself, and I think many of us. The other one, which is very typical for the Netherlands, is that as an experienced practitioner, you write a dissertation. I have seen people in the Netherlands writing a dissertation at the age of 85, as the fruits of their wisdom accumulated in life and written down as a book illustrating your competence to do inquiry of some kind that is academic enough to be presented and defended. I know this is very unusual, if non-existent in the US and in many other countries.
Sorry, John.
I thought you were applauding. But anyway, the program that we are in is that second type. We call it external PhDs. And the ultimate criterion is, can you write a book that is persuasive in your domain of inquiry and that brings something to the field that you want to investigate? The rules are different. The only requirement the only thing you need is that there is a local professor at a university in the Netherlands that is willing to read your book. You can even write it on your own if you wish, on the cellar or in the desert or wherever. If the final product is well enough and there is a professor at the university qualified to act as a supervisor, and he or she estimates that this is good enough, then it's presented to a reader committee that judges on the quality and says yes, or yes maybe, or yes if, or no. So that's the program you're in. And I acted as a linking pin to Tilburg University, where I am a full professor. Not for long anymore, because in the Netherlands we have age limits, unlike in the US. And the normal age limit is 65. I'm quite over that, but it can be, I have gotten permission to go on for longer. And I can take on new dissertations till the age of 70, which is next year, and then I can finalize whatever I have accepted for another 5 years, unless a miracle happens and my rector says you can go on again, which is unlikely. But I will talk more about that in a few minutes. So the system is this. TAUS acts as a kind of intellectual and social forum to help you in constructing your PhD. Those who have supervisors from TAUS are in that situation. Occasionally, I act as a primary supervisor, sometimes with a secondary supervisor from the TAUS community. But mostly, students work with supervisors from the TAUS Institute, who then at a certain point get in contact with me to share the developments and see whether it's developing well, so that we can prepare the submission to the final judgment, so to speak. What you do with TAUS is actually independent of Tilburg University. Once we feel things are good enough, we then present it to the Tilburg system. And then you go to the same process as any other candidate from the Netherlands, which means that your manuscript is proposed, is submitted to a reader committee that then judges, and if it's okay, you can defend. That's how it goes. Fortunately, we have the, the privilege to propose readers. And of course, we propose readers that are somehow, how to say, familiar with and the method and the topic, and very often these are people from Taos themselves. But not exclusively. We have had many other readers from all over the world, actually. And some new faces that I had never seen before, but that were presented by people and say that would be a good reader, an expert in the field, and let's submit your writing to that person. So once you're ready with, or almost ready with your manuscript, we then get into the process of finalizing through the Tilburg system. Now, given the changes, sometimes we registered you officially just before defending. But we have decided to not do that any longer because there is for myself, a time limit. So the consequence of the changes is that as long as I am the only intermediary, you should all register before the end of this year. Those here. And other people who want to register. As far as I am concerned, there is not any problem at all with me only as the linking pin when you do it before the end of this year. We are now in the process of expanding linking pins. Actually, today I got 2 mails from colleagues from Tilburg who said they would be willing, younger people, they would be willing to take over my role as long as I am willing to support them in how to do that over the years. One from the social sciences that I have not talked yet about, and one, or actually 2 from the humanities. And there are some other people here at this conference who are willing to take that role at the university in Belgium, and we have received official permission from the rector of the University of Brussels to do that the same and to connect with colleagues over there. And apart from my age, that would be a necessity anyway, because imagine that I, as an only single person, have to process not only the 61s that are now in the pipeline, but the next 50. That's physically impossible. Even if I would have an eternal life and an eternal energy, that's simply impossible. So we have to expand that, and we are now in the process of doing that. As all good things, you have to adapt and find out the future again and again and again. The only thing you need is a will, a generative will, a good will to do so. And I think this is plenty in this group of people. Ken has talked about topics. They are of all kinds: educational, therapeutic, family therapy, literature, theory, whatever. Everything that you can see as social in some way. And what is not social? Even astronomy is. But anyway. I think I have said most of the crucial things as far as I'm concerned now. I would like to see if there are questions.
John, I think you should say something about the timeline between...
Yeah. Okay. There's a procedure. Once we feel the manuscript is ripe to be defended and to be presented to a reading committee, officially there is a timeline of 6 months. Officially. But I don't think we ever have complied to that. We always did it faster. What does that mean? That the text, according to the supervisor, is, well, solid enough to be defended, and then we start the process of who would be a good reader for that manuscript. You submit that text to that committee, and they have a time to read it and to say yes or no. Basically, that's the rule, to say yes or no. If they say no, it means that you have to postpone and to rework it. So there is something very tricky in here. I know that many of you think that when your supervisor has said it's okay, that it then is also okay for Tilburg. No, that's just the beginning, not the end. Therefore, we have an informal process. At least I have tried as much as possible to prepare things informally as much as possible. Why? Because many of you live far away from Tilburg, have to prepare traveling and all that kind of stuff. So once we step into the official pipeline, we have to be more or less certain that it will be okay. So therefore, we do something as follows, that we ask a number of potential readers to check the manuscript informally and say, look, what do you think of this? Is this good enough? If you have suggestions for improvement, you can still do it without any problem. We are still in the making process. Nobody knows. Let's create a collaborative construction here, so that once we bring it into the official pipeline, we can be more or less certain it will be okayed officially, so that there is no unpleasant surprise at the end. Because imagine you submit the thesis officially, say today, expecting you will defend, say, somewhere in September. All preparations are done, and then the reading committee says, no, 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 there's one or two saying, no, 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 it's not good enough, you should do this and that and that. That simply implies you cannot defend in September, that you have to rework and postpone. Now, if you do that in the Netherlands with people from there, no problem. They live there and we just rework the thing. If you do that with people who, and committee members, and the whole stuff behind it, and then you have to reschedule, that's practically speaking a real problem. So in order to avoid that, we try as much with the supervisors to think in advance, to prepare in advance, to prepare, and say, look, let's check with potential readers whether we meet the standards or not. And once we have a sort of informal guarantee that in fact that is the case, let's then officialize. Which means that the students have to be a little bit patient. When you think your text is ready and is okay by your supervisor, you still have to have some patience before you get to the very end. Because then we are in that official, unofficial checking session to be sure that when we schedule the defense, that we will make it without accidents. And the time that is needed for that we can't predict. It simply depends on how potential readers react. Many times we have had reactions in this or that direction. Well, I agree with the story, but I think this or that chapter should be redone, or that literature or whatever. This happens a lot, but takes time. And there should be a good understanding between the student and the supervisor about that process. Okay with your supervisor is just the beginning of a new process and not the end. And that can even take half a year. Depends on the reactions from the reading committee. So the official timeline, if you read the regulations of Tilburg University, you will see a daunting message. Submit and then so much time for the readers, and so we never comply with that. We try to make it sure that when we submit, it's going to be done within a few months so that we can be sure that the defense will take place according to schedule. That's also important for us. For example, now in May, 13 and 14 May, we have 8 defenses, all put together for a very practical reason, because there's a lot of traveling involved from readers and supervisors. With overlap, it's cost reductive, and also for practical reasons, because energy is limited. And then in 2 days we hope to process all of them. It looks like a machinery, but in fact it's at the same time a kind of faculty gathering. It's usually a very pleasant event where we, besides friendship, we also share ideas and thoughts and discussions and everything. Most of the time people liked it a lot. But that's also a reason that we have to be sure that when we schedule all these defenses, that no accidents will happen, that we can be sure it's going to work. For supervisors, I would say this implies that the preparation of the reading, potential reading and potential changes should come as early as possible, so that time that is involved with that is as short as possible. Usually, we know people in advance who could be good readers, and share with them the production of the text is crucial in making sure that we have an acceptable piece of work. And also tell me in advance, because there are some other readers besides the Taos readers who might be involved as well, and then we can start selecting, because we want to expand readers from all corners, of course. Is that... So there is unclarity about the timing. You cannot guarantee a timeline exactly. Sometimes it's very fast, sometimes we have to be careful. Depends on the text. Questions, yes. Well, I have a question myself. I hear here about ongoing students that are in the process. I know mostly who is already registered officially or not. The registration implies, as Ken said, that you show your master's diploma, which is checked by an official institution in the Netherlands, which is not our university. It's a national institution. We cannot make decisions on that ourselves. It's done in The Hague, the administrative capital. So, and then we have to fill out some forms that I sign together with the other supervisor. And you have to sign it yourself. And you only are officially registered when your diploma is checked and okayed by that national institute. That takes some time. 10 years ago, it took like a week. Now it takes like 3 months. That's because it's reorganized. But that means that everybody here who is now student, already okayed by Taos, should do that almost immediately. And the new applicants, if there are people who intend to become student, they should do that also if they are okayed by Taos. Because from next year on, we will, and maybe already from now on, we will diversify. That means that other promoters, other supervisors linked to university, not only me, but other people who will take over my role, or together with me, well, we can talk about the strategy of the future at another moment maybe, but from next year on we will have to diversify, because it's impossible physically for me to do it all, and also the regulations change. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise, because I see that with such an expanding institute, you simply need more people. And sooner or later, this has to happen. Okay? Yep.
Just the master's degree?
Yes.
Not the undergraduate?
Well, here is a strange thing. Your master's degree is a necessity. From people from the US, the official institution in The Hague also asks proof of your bachelor's. And records, which means what courses have you taken and so on. Transcripts. Transcripts, yes. That's an American way of doing things. Like, I never got any transcript in my life. And most people from European universities have not such a thing. But if you're from the US or from Canada or wherever, where they give you transcripts, they ask you to provide them.
Thank you.
And, well, there is also some odd rule of how to show them your master's degree. It's not, you cannot make a simple copy and send it to us. If you send a copy, it has to be certified by a notary. Why is that? They have to be sure that it is original. You may say, of course it's original, but there have been cases of people offering proof of master degrees which were just bought or whatever. To avoid that, they ask, if you would visit Tilburg yourself and bring the original with you, or the frame in which is hanged on the wall or whatever, and show it to them, that's enough. They have to be certain that you have a master's degree originally. And how you prove that, in many ways, it can be shown directly, or if I can see it and testify with my authority, I have seen the original, that's also okay. In the beginning, every student from Taos also sooner or later brought a visit to Tilburg to see the institution, because you know, well, it worked on trust. Now, I'm always impressed that people trust us so much. We believe that you are trustworthy, but you have to believe it also. So people came, but also for practical reasons, to see the university, and then they brought their papers and were registered, and everything was unproblematic. We have had many cases that we at the last moment had to process all these papers, and that took some time. But master's is obligatory.
Two questions.
Probably loud for everyone.
Okay. My first question would be, because my original plan would be next year for applying to PhD programs, but after hearing about your retirement, etc., is that last minute application for this year? This is my first question.
Well, you could eventually try to register this year, and then you would be processed by me, so to speak. If you register next year, you will be processed by one of my colleagues.
Okay.
And we have the guarantee that this is possible. Actually, it's not only a guarantee. The dean of the social science faculty, that was dean when this program started, is now the dean of the humanities and is extremely in favor of this program. And he has guaranteed to support this program by whatever means. So if I cannot register, he will register as a primary supervisor and take me as a secondary one. Arie de Ruiter, this year.
Thank you. I have another question. As a non-native English speaker, one of my major concerns would be the defense. So what would be the concerns or focus?
Well, Mary is a witness of the difficulties that can emerge sometimes when a non-native English speaker writes in English. That can be problematic. It's hard for us to defend a thesis in Japanese. I don't think we can do that.
Well, isn't it the responsibility of the writer, if you choose the English language, to then have somebody read it and clean it up? Or would
there's a sort of, it's hard to formalize rules on this. Some people think they can write sufficiently in good English, and for American eyes or ears, it sounds odd sometimes. I myself am not sufficiently able to write perfectly in English. I cannot express myself in English as I can express myself in Dutch or in French, which is my second language actually, or even in German to some extent. Here is a practical, we have to decide per case what to do. Sometimes I have been helping the author, him or herself, up to my limits. Sometimes I have said, look, you have to find an editor somehow. Sometimes the readers say, I'm going to help a little bit, because it's too awkward. So there is no general answer to this question. It's actually a decision per case. But if you would have means or friends or colleagues that can help you in creating a fine text, of course that's helpful. But there is one thing that I have learned in this process. Sometimes the way of expressing ideas it's impossible to merely translate. That's something that has also to be learned from the American side. I have seen that. The German way of expression is not the American way of expression. The French way of expression is not the English or American way of expression. And since I am very fluent in French, it's actually my almost native language, I can see that and feel that. If you want to check what I say, go to a zoo and read the texts about what you see. Check the length of the text. I have done that for years, and I have never seen a text in French that was not as double as long as the one in English. And they wanted to say the same thing. So simply translating is impossible. That's something that needs to be understood, and I am sure that in a constructionist environment that can be understood to some extent. And not to speak about Spanish. In fact, we agreed that you would defend and write in Spanish because of that. And that was very nice, actually.
Thank you, John. It's always a pleasure to listen to you talk, no matter what the topic. Maybe I'll really try that out sometime with something really boring. Yeah?
I have not shared all topics with you yet.
He's your kid, then. We are delighted to have you all here, and I'm especially delighted to see the loyalty of people who didn't have to be here at all, with all the other delights of Taos. I'm going to give a very tiny talk, which is about how to finish. In general, in PhD programs across the United States, and ours is one of them, about 50% of those who start do not finish. And we've had that experience. Often it was about personal life interfering one way or another, or you no longer had a job that would pay your tuition or whatever. So, and sometimes it's just getting lost. So I have a few recommendations for you. I can't do much about getting fired or not, that's on you, but I can try to give you some of my ideas about what will help you to finish. And this is kind of ironic because John and I are now in the process of graduating someone who has the record of the longest tenure in the Towns Institute PhD program. And I think it's about 10 years. We stopped charging her anything about, we just thought someday she may finish, and now she will. At any rate, it's important that you get along well with your advisor, and if you don't hear from your advisor, you connect with your advisor. The more passive you are in relation to your advisor, the longer it will take you. So that's one thing, to develop that relationship and to be proactive in it. Second thing that I think is important is you cannot continue life as you've known it. If you think you can just add on the little flourish of a PhD on Saturday afternoon between the games, wrong. You will have to do something to reduce your normal procedures of living. Right, Otar? You have to give something up, like a day of work. Something that amounts to about a day a week, you have to give up in order to really accomplish something. Third, I think it's important to follow your passion, to care about what you're doing. If you find that you're not caring, or this is a real drag, maybe you should drop out. I mean, why waste your life doing something that's not fascinating to you? Of course, you can also alter your dissertations so that they are more pleasing, but, you know, it should be a labor of love. Fourth, writing is so difficult, and Ken is very liberal about how creative you can all be. I'm a little worried about that for many of you, and I suggest that you at least acknowledge the traditional format to help you organize your labors. Not that you have to follow it, and I also believe in things like the boxes and the poetry and graphics. We used to be more free to do graphics, but to be sort of fulsome, but to also feel there's some structure there that you can rely on. I think we're going to start asking for writing. We talk about this, of asking for samples of writing, because unfortunately as practitioners very often you have never been required to write very much. Often there are other things that you've had to do, like practicums and internships and so forth, where you were not required to do much writing. So maybe if you have a friend or someone who can help you, if it's not your normal thing that you are used to doing, that would maybe be advisable. Let's see. Oh, and the thing that John didn't tell you, the secret is that once your committee has said yes, then you buy a beautiful dress or suit. No, not a suit, because the men have stricter dress requirements that they didn't have any for women because they weren't expecting any. So you can wear whatever you like, and it's usually quite nice. And it's a very, well, I'm going to just say to Ginny, what would you say about your oral experience?
You know, for me, it was, I went into it with a lot of anxiety. My throat swelled up. I had to get throat lozenges from our friends, and when I was in it, I totally, all that just went away, and I was just able to talk about what I cared about, and it was an amazing dialogue. It went so fast, I was surprised when it ended. And for me, it felt like this, a ceremony that was like a ritual completion of a journey that I had chosen to take for myself, for my own learning. And it was a ceremony that just celebrated it completely. So that's what I would say.
I didn't coach her on that, but that's what I was hoping that you would hear, is that it's a celebratory ritual and gives you great joy and satisfaction. And then there's a party after that. So once you get through that huge hurdle of writing and having it approved, as John has suggested, it becomes a joyous occasion, and we all look forward to it. Those are just some of my hints. And for my students particularly, I want that to be taken seriously. I have a student here who hides from me. Okay, we're going to break up into some smaller groups right now and have more private discussions about things. And the way I imagine this is that would all the current students rise and go over ones and twos and fill out those tables. So like 1 to 2 of you at each of those tables over there.